American Donald Orsawadi and his wife Ruth moved to the Russian city of Oryol 14 years ago.
My area is 250 miles south of Moscow, and they're very, very communist. They have a very Soviet mentality.
The couple decided Oryol would be a good place to settle down, buy a small home, and start evangelizing.
I'm there to give them the gospel of Jesus Christ, to tell them of the good news of salvation.
To do that, these Baptist missionaries placed gospel tracts with their home address in every single mailbox of each apartment building in Oryol.
320,000 people in Oryol, so everybody has received a personal invitation from me with a plan of salvation.
And people responded. After a small church began, some gave their lives to Christ and were baptized.
So everybody knows we're there. We're operating openly. It's no secret what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we're the only Americans within 250 miles. So everybody in town knows that I am the American.
But on Sunday morning, August 14th, 2016, their work came to a screeching halt.
I had been expecting it for 3 weeks before that. And then when they walked in, okay, here goes.
Let's pause here for a moment. 25 days before, on July 20th, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed new amendments to a law that governed religious life. Under the guise of confronting terrorism, Putin gave authorities the power to ban preaching, praying, proselytizing, and handing out religious materials outside government-sanctioned churches. The U.S. State Department warned the move signaled a troubling Russian trend of intimidation and harassment. Sergei Rakuba's organization works in Russia and in 13 other countries of the Soviet Union.
This law is known among evangelical Christians in Russia as an anti-missionary law because it places harsh restrictions on evangelical churches and foreign missionary organizations.
Among other things, the law required foreign missionaries to have a permit to evangelize. Also, reading your Bible, singing, or simply praying outside a registered church, even in a home, became illegal. Roman Lankin is a lawyer with the Slavic Center for Law and Justice.
The law inflicted serious damage because suddenly many Christians feared that just talking about faith or sharing with others about God was a crime.
Andrea Desnetsky is a prominent Russian commentator.
So basically the law tells us not to do anything that can be called a missionary activity, including saying, I believe in Jesus, for instance.
Supporters say the law is necessary to confront terrorism, especially acts perpetrated by radical Muslims. But Rakuba insists there's a more sinister agenda.
The Russian authorities are trying to restrict the Protestant and evangelical movements and stop them from spreading their influence and the message of the gospel.
Back in Oryol, more than 3 weeks after the law's passage, Orsawadi was home preaching when Russian officers suddenly appeared.
These 3 policemen walked right into our house where we meet and have our services.
His wife snapped these pictures of the plainclothes officers.
They didn't knock on the door, they didn't say anything, they just walked in.
They waited for Ors to finish his sermon, then started interrogating everyone.
And asked them, what are you doing here? What does this guy do here?
Hours later, he was taken to the police station.
I was charged with illegal missionary activity.
Orsawadi then became the first American convicted under the new law.
Orsawadi, who lives around 200 miles south of Moscow, was fined $640 for holding religious services in his home, as well as putting up posters in the community advertising for those meetings.
He appealed twice before a local court and lost. And he's not alone. Lankin, who represents Orsawadi, says almost 3 dozen people, mostly Russians, have fallen prey to the law.
Jehovah's Witnesses, Scientologists, and Mormons have also been targeted.
And just last month, a yoga instructor was arrested for illegal missionary activity. But there's one group that's been left alone.
The law is unlikely to affect the Orthodox Church, which some 70% of Russians say they belong to.
For the moment, never, never, never. because now the Russian Orthodox Church is closely associated with the state.
Desnetsky, who is Russian Orthodox, says there are growing numbers within his church that see all non-Orthodox Christians as cults or foreign spies, and he's not happy about it.
For some, Protestants are, if not enemies, then potential danger. So they need, to their opinion, some containing.
Actually, the word Orthodox in Russian, pravoslavny, means the proper way to glorify God, which implies that every other way is improper.
The Russian Orthodox Church has a powerful ally in Vladimir Putin. The president has elevated the church's prominence and influence in recent years. In fact, in some corners of Russian society, the Orthodox Church is considered the national church.
And this idea is being propagated by mass media, society, and unfortunately by the Orthodox Church and the government.
So for Osawadi, this is a fight for all non-Orthodox faiths to have the right to practice their beliefs freely in Russia.
If I don't have the right to sit in my own house with my friends and read the Bible and pray, then nobody has that right in this country, whether they're Russian citizens or foreign visitors.
For now, the Osawadis have stopped holding church services in their home while they appeal his conviction before Russia's Supreme Court. George Thomas, CBN News, Moscow.